It's 8 p.m. time for This Just In, your favorite sports show. I hope by now here on Facebook Live. I'm Marsha Boyce, and of course, we have another action packed show for you tonight with Justin Marvel. And you can see our very special guest, who Justin will introduce in just a moment. Now, as things continue, I hope you're social distancing. I hope you're following all of the advice from the authorities as things open up here a bit in Barbados as well as in other territories across the world. But thank you so much for joining us and spending about an hour of your time with us tonight. Justin, you can go ahead and do the honors.
Thank you so much, Marsha. On this show, we like to have special guests, especially those with Barbadian connections. So without further ado, we have former Rockets assistant, now current assistant coach with their G League affiliate. But more importantly for us, he is our national basketball head coach. Welcome, Devan Blair, to the program.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
We always ask all of our guests, how is it like, given the current pandemic, what's the situation like over there in Houston for you?
Things are okay. The country's starting to open up, and Texas was among the first states to start opening up, the economy and in terms of restaurants and barbershops and stuff like that. So restaurants started opening up about 25% capacity about 2 weeks ago. And then today was the first day that gyms and salons could be open. So including gyms was our Houston Rockets facility. So we were officially open today for the first time in about 3 months. So that's always exciting to finally get guys back in the gym and hopefully start progressing towards something more.
You are basically a Houston Rockets employee, and obviously your organization is known for being one of the first to dive right into the analytics era of basketball. For those who don't understand, give us a rundown, give us a basic recap of what type of basketball that is.
Yeah, so our GM Daryl Morey is kind of paved the way to this new modern era of basketball, and we're always trying to push stuff to the extreme. So what we kind of believe in, what we teach, from the Rockets on down to our G League team is, it's easy to say like threes are worth more than twos, but that's kind of what we go for, right? But it's just based on the numbers and the percentages overall, right? It's always going to vary a little bit for who you have on your team, but essentially the thought is that a mid-range two, right, your 15-footers, stuff like that, traditionally used to be considered a good shot, but nowadays in the NBA, the average field goal percentage is below 50%. So if you're taking a less than 50% shot, that's only worth 2 points. Well, now you're only returning less than 1 point per possession. So if you shoot a 3-point shot, right, it's obviously worth 3 points, right? And if it's worth 35%, right, 40% shooter, right, now you're netting more than that 1 point per possession, right? That's the easiest and most simple way to talk about without going into great detail. But a great example I always like to use when people ask me about analytics is, who would get to 100 points first if you did a simulated basketball game and Marcus Smart only shot threes and Steph Curry, LeBron, Chris Paul only shot twos, right? Who would get to 100 points first, right? And most people think, oh, Marcus Smart, not a great three-point shooter. It's got to be the other guys. It's actually not. Marcus Smart is an average NBA three-point shooter, like 35.6%, and he will get to 100 in about, I think it's 4 less shots than the other guys. I'd have to double-check my math on that, but it's definitely less than the other shooters. So that's just kind of a thought exercise I always have people do. But that's kind of it in a nutshell, right? Threes are worth more than twos, so we want to get the easiest twos possible, right? We want to get all the way to the rim, shoot layups, right? Get fouled, get to the free throw line, and that's obviously an easy shot as well. And then everything else, we try to eliminate as much as possible. There's always exceptions, right? Chris Paul was elite at the mid-range, right? So we didn't want to take that away from him, right? Let him shoot that shot because that's what he's comfortable with, and he's elite enough to where his points per possession were above 1. Everyone else, stay behind the three-point line, right? And it's always it's a big adjustment for players. I'm not going to say it's not, but once they understand the math behind it and they get used to playing that way, then they really like it.
You personally, Devin, what led you to, buy into this philosophy? Because obviously, I mean, you're around our age or older, so you've been around basketball, especially 90s basketball, where this was not a thing. So what has led you personally to buy into this philosophy?
At the very beginning, when I first started with the Rockets 5 years ago as an intern, I didn't quite understand it, right? And I think that's probably how a lot of, I don't want to say outsiders, but people not within the organization, they don't quite understand all the ins and outs of it, right? It's not that, there's strict prohibited rules that you can't do this, you can't do that. It's just that we prefer these things, right? So as the years have gone by, I've seen how successful it is. I would say year 1, maybe even half into year 2, I was second guessing myself. It was like, man, like that mid-range shot is there. Why aren't we taking it? Right. And then I started realizing now I was like, oh, we're not taking because it's a bad shot. Right. It's just not worth as many points. There's not enough good shooters from the mid-range in today's game to make it worth taking it. It's better to take a contested 3, right, than it is to take a semi-open mid-range 2. So just seeing how that's evolved over the last couple of years, right, not only, reaffirmed my value in it, my belief in it, right, but the rest of the league is starting to catch up, right? Every year, I actually have a stat pulled up right here. So in the NBA, mid-range 2s per game taken, 2015-16, it was 21.5 is how many teams were averaging. In 2018-19, it was 15. 19-20, it's around 12. Right.
Of course, we're not talking about the San Antonio Spurs because DeRozan and Marcus Aldridge haven't seemed to caught on to that yet. But
exactly, yeah, we're not talking the San Antonios. We're not talking the Indiana Pacers either. They both lead the league in mid-range 2s. But yeah, the rest of the league is catching up. The rest of the league is realizing, oh, this is where the Rockets have had their advantage all the years, and so now they're starting to catch up to us. And so now we have to push the envelope even further. And I think that's where, the small ball thing starting to come into play, right? We're taking even less mid-range 2s, right? I think we took my last year there last season, I think we took 6 a game, right? We wanted to drop it to 4 a game, right? Take even fewer. In the G League this year, we averaged 1 a game. And we actually had a rule with our guys. If you take it, you come out. Unless you make it. If you make it, you stay in. Right? But if you don't make it, you're coming out of the game. And it really we wanted to make sure, because in the G League, it's a place for experimentation, right? And seeing where you can take things and try different things. So that's what we wanted to do, right? We just wanted to see, can we eliminate it completely? And how does that affect the game? So it was a fun experiment.
I'm glad that we're really going into this analytics era. Just the other night, I was watching Moneyball. That's the movie on the Oakland A's manager, Billy Beane, taking sabermetrics into baseball. And the guy who was bringing sabermetrics was saying then that baseball had a problem with incorrectly evaluating players then. Do you find, even though with basketball shifting towards this analytics era, do you find still that players are still being wrongfully evaluated in the league?
It's tough to say because, talking to our scouts, talking to other scouts, right? That's always kind of your goal, is to, either find the diamond in the rough, right? Or find the guy that is a for sure lock, right? To be successful. And this was actually one of the projects I worked on in an internship in college I had with the Pacers. I was in their front office for half a season helping the analytics staff. And basically we were building out a model to try to see what stats correlate from college to being a successful NBA player. Can you find that correlation to know what actually works? And that was 6 years ago, right? Until this day, there's still not a strong correlation. it's still kind of a crapshoot. The only thing that really translates is rebounding. And I think the best example of that is Kenneth Faried, right? He was a monster rebounder in college. He's been a monster rebounder when he was in the NBA, right? That's the one that people always use. And that's really the only thing that translates. So I don't know if people are being unfairly evaluated. I think it is tougher to find good 3-point shooters just because you don't know if they're allowed to shoot them in college. There's less of a value on it. Obviously, the best of the best 3-point shooters, you know who those are, right? But there's some like fringe guys. Can he actually shoot? Can he not shoot? Is he just being told not to shoot? There's so many unknown questions when you're trying to evaluate a college prospect that it makes it very, very difficult, I think, for scouts in the NBA and all international leagues to really know what their best skills are. So, again, I'm not a scout. I try to do my best to watch as many games as I can, but you really don't know until you get a guy. It's the toughest job in the world.
Now, Devin, a question for you. Just to take you back a bit. You joined the Rockets organization as an intern, but give us a sense of what it is like operating in that kind of environment. You know, you're working with big names like James Harden and so forth, just to give our viewers a sense.
So my first year, I didn't say anything, right? I never said anything to anyone. I was just trying to stay out of the way and do my job. And it takes a few years to where guys start trusting you, and then you can start having real conversations, right? I mean, it's like you realize they're just like any other guy, right? It's just, right, they're being paid all this money, right? We get that. We know that, right? They're celebrities, right? They're big time celebrities. But at the end of the day, they're just a normal person that really honestly just wants to be treated like a normal person, right? Because when you get to the high level celebrity guys, your Lebrons, your MJs, people like that, they can't live a normal life. You can't just go out and go to the mall. You can't go to the movies, right? You can't just go out and have dinner unless you get a private room. Like, so stuff like that, like, at the end of the day, they just want to be treated normal, right? Just talk to them like a normal person, like have a conversation with them, ask about their family. Like, they have kids just like, a lot of people do. It's just, they're normal people. You just have to get to know them on a personal level, and then you have a regular relationship, right? And I feel like me and our guys have pretty good relationships. Obviously, some you're closer with than others, just like in any other job, right? Whether you're in an office building or wherever, you're going to be closer to some people naturally. It's the same way there. It's just that some of the closer people I'm with are making $25 million a year.
At this stage so far, you've been there for 5 years. Is there any particular moment that stands out to you, or one that you would say, okay, this is my most memorable moment to date?
So probably not the happiest memory, but one I'll obviously never forget is when we missed 27 straight threes and lost to the Warriors in Game 7.
I was going to ask you about that, but
because it almost you almost couldn't be sad because it was so unbelievable that it just happened. That we just had the most the biggest anomaly of a shooting performance in sports history, and that's the reason we lost to the best team ever assembled. Like, everything was written that year for us to go on and win a championship, and to have it ripped away was tough on something that crazy.
So that's what I would ask, Devin. Being that, as I said, you pushed to the point where it is either threes or layups. Basically, that's kind of what it is. When you miss 27 threes in a decider, doesn't it tell you, well, hold on a second, maybe we're doing something wrong here. Maybe we should have a plan B or plan C. Did that, right, after those 27 straight mysteries, did you tell yourself, or does it tell anyone in your organization, maybe we're not on the right path there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair question. I think the decision makers, not myself, obviously, but I think they got asked that question a few times. after that game because, I mean, it's a natural thing to ask. But when you go back and look at the game, we missed, of those 27, we missed probably 12 wide open ones. So you could say, okay, is it better shooting a wide open one and miss it, or take one dribble in and also miss that mid-range too? You don't know you're going to make that one either. So for us, obviously we watched the game, like, and we looked at the shots we were getting. It was like, no, we're going to take those shots. Like, obviously, if you can go in and get a layup, you go in and get a layup, right? But clearly that wasn't there because we were missing so many open threes. They were taking something away, and they were taking away the rim. It's just, we just happened to not be able to throw it in the ocean that night.
During the actual game itself, do you realize that you have missed 27 straight threes? Because there's one thing, like,
I had no idea.
Because I've played basketball, and it's only afterwards you realize, wait, hold on, we missed this month. So, like, during the actual game, do you realize at any point, hold on, we've missed, like, 27 straight threes?
I had no idea. I didn't know until after the game, and I got on Twitter and I saw it. Because
Wow.
at that point, I was the video guy. So I was in the back. I wasn't on the bench. So I was in the back cutting the game up with one of our interns. So we had no idea because we didn't watch it with commentary on. We didn't listen to the announcers. We just want to watch the game and just focus. And we had no idea just because you can't hear them talking about it. And then after the game, we look on Twitter and it's like, oh, crap. Like, did that really just happen? That's the reason we lost, is because we missed these many threes in a row. So it was tough. I mean, obviously the locker room was just dead quiet. Obviously felt bad for James and Chris. You obviously felt terrible for, because he hurt his hamstring in Game 5. We know without a doubt, if Chris doesn't get hurt, we win a championship, and that's really what hurts us. And it stinks for Chris because the moniker with him always was, oh, he doesn't have the durability, he gets hurt, and it ended up happening. So it was tough, and obviously felt horrible for Coach D'Antoni, who's had probably amongst the worst luck of any coach in the playoffs, right?
I don't think you have to tell me that. I'm a Phoenix Suns fan, so I know
exactly right.
Well. Yeah,
I've seen it all. Right, when the guys leave the bench, right, because Steve Nash gets hip checked and the guys get suspended and they lose to the Spurs.
Yeah,
right, stuff like
Amari
that.
sits on a game. I think it was Game 5 or the Game 5. Amari had to sit out.
Yeah, so just crazy stuff like that. And a couple against the Lakers, right? Some crazy shots that Kobe makes. Like, he's just been on the bad end of some tough situations, and I think this one was maybe even the toughest.
You brought up James earlier with Marsha. I just want to know, you spoke about him on a personal level, but with his vast skill set, what's it like to coach or be around him or watch him as he does these amazing feats?
It's honestly unbelievable how skilled he is. Like, you don't realize how good NBA players actually are until you're there in the gym in practice. Like, you see them on TV, right? They're good, they're elite. But when you go in practice and you see them, just walk in the gym and hit 30 straight threes or something like that, you're like, oh, okay, right? And kind of to go back to an earlier question a little bit, kind of when my first aha moment in the NBA was probably 2 weeks in, right? We got a phone call to come back to rebound for Jason Terry. And Jason Terry went through his shooting routine. I was like, all right, I'm just going to rebound, whatever. He went something like 475 for 500. I'm telling you, it was the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
this is what the NBA is about. I had no idea. And so obviously James takes it to a whole new level because every year he's coming up with something different, right? You see it in the articles in the offseason, right? He's trying a new trick, a new move or something. But he's so smart and he's so skilled with his footwork. He can do anything that he wants, right? He'll practice it 2 or 3 times in the gym. And then he's like, oh, this could work, right? And then he just starts practicing, right? And then now it's an unstoppable move that everyone's copying, right? to be able to do that, and I think, he said himself in a couple articles, like, he wants to be a trendsetter. Like, he
Yes,
is
I've seen
doing
that.
that. Like, that is what he does. Like, he has changed the game. Obviously, he didn't create the Euro step, right?
No.
But I think he took it to a new level,
Level, yeah.
right? His ability to just draw fouls when going to the lane, right? Yeah, sure, he grabs people's arm. Of course he does, but don't put your arm in there. That's not his fault.
That's why I always say it. Just don't put your arm in there. That's
exactly. The Spurs have been phenomenal at that for years, right? Don't put your arm in there. You shouldn't have to change the rule just because one player is better at it than everyone else.
Yeah.
Right? The same with the step back, right? Just because he steps back and when he shoots, his momentum takes him back forward, okay, just don't jump into him. You don't need to change the rule to take away one player's ability, right? So I think to be able to have multiple rules changed because of you just shows how amazing you actually are, right? I think it's like the biggest compliment probably that the NBA can give you. And I think sometimes it's taken for granted, how good he is and how much he's evolutionized the game.
Well, sorry, Devin, I don't know if you realize, but we don't have a James Harden here in Barbados basketball, so
not yet.
Fair enough. Touche. How do you foresee bringing your style of basketball here to Barbados? Because I don't want to rag on Bajan players, but we are that great shooters, and our coaches will lament on the lack of skills that our players have. So then how do you bring a style of basketball that sees us getting up and down the floor, shooting threes or just scoring layups? So how do you bring that to our, our most seasoned players?
Yeah, I think I need to start by saying it's not an overnight thing, right? It's not going to be, I come down there and the next day we're playing like the Rockets, right? That's not how it's going to work. And, Francis and I, I've talked about, we want to build this thing all the way out, right? We don't want to I'm not just coming down there to just come coach the national team for a month and leave, right? We're coming down there, we're building it from the bottom all the way up, right? We want to coach the coaches, right? Get the skills being built from the kids all the way up. So when they get to the senior team, when they get to the junior team, right? Now they have the skills that are best suited for the modern game, right? So that's the big answer, right? But for the team itself, I have to go in there and be able to evaluate what we have and then see how we can adapt that best to the modern game, right? Just because we're not elite shooters, right? The way we're going to space the floor, right, which is the biggest key of the analytics game, is spacing the floor, right? Because now we get downhill, they collapse to the rim. Now we're getting open shots. Obviously, we hope we can hit open threes, but if not, maybe we have very elite cutters. Maybe we have elite drivers, right? How do we find the skill set of our team and make it mesh in with the way we're trying to play?
Now, in the event that you're just joining us, you're listening to Devan Blair. He's worked with the Houston Rockets organization, filling in the role as an assistant with the Rockets team and is the current assistant coach with the G League team, the Rio Grande Valley Vipers. Now, Devan, I have a question for you, and a question that has been on my mind. Why Barbados? How did that connection for you to become the Barbados national coach? How did that come about?
Yeah, so we can go the long way around here. So honestly, I got a phone call probably 3 years ago from Troy Justice, who is in the NBA front office. He used to run NBA India and then moved back to New York, was put in charge of the junior NBA for a little bit. So I think it was 3 or 4 years ago when the junior NBA was doing those Digicel jumpstart camps all around the Caribbean. And so Troy called myself and another Rockets assistant, Matt Brazzi, and asked if we wanted to go to Barbados to run the camp. And of course, absolutely. Like, how fast can we get there? So we come down. We ran the camp for 3 days, and the purpose of the camp was to find the best talent, both the girls and the boys. I think we were U16, U15, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
And those top 3 players from both the boys and girls got to go on to the Caribbean camp, like the overall, right, the best players. And So came down, did that. Obviously got to meet everybody involved with Barbados Basketball at the time. Got to meet Coach Z, a couple other people, and I just stayed in touch with them over the years, right? We left, obviously had a great weekend, realized there was a love for basketball on the island, right? Especially amongst the kids. Like, they had a phenomenal time. We had a phenomenal time getting to coach them. And so I knew there was a passion there, right? So kept in contact, right? Just checking in, see how everyone's doing and stuff like that. And then the Haitian national team job opened up, and Matt Brazzi, who I went to Barbados with, took over that team, right? So I realized then the wheel started turning a little bit, like, oh, like that's like a realistic thing, right? Maybe that's something I can try to start doing. So the Haitian team goes into the tournament, right? The Barbados team goes in that same tournament. I think it was 2 summers ago, I believe is when it was, that pre-qualifier.
2018, yes.
Yeah. So 2 summers this summer, I guess it would be. And Haiti ended up beating Barbados, right? But then Haiti got disqualified, but I think Barbados came in third, right?
Yes, he came third. Yeah.
And after that tournament, coach stepped down. You know, I don't know the ins and outs of everything that happened, right? They decided to revamp everything. And then Francis gets hired, right? And then the people I kept in contact with, you know, let me know all of this was going on. And I expressed my interest in wanting to coach in some capacity, you know, whatever way we could figure out. So they sent my resume to Francis. Francis contacted me. We just, you know, started a dialogue. And then he had to go to Miami for, I think, some meetings, some FIBA meetings or something. I'm not exactly sure. I decided to fly myself to Miami so I can meet him, right? We could talk, sit down, you know, talk about what I believe in, you know, the analytics stuff we discussed tonight, you know, how we see basketball going on the island. And then after that, again, just kept in contact. And so I think that was late summer when we met in Miami of 2019. And then just kept in contact, kept talking, right? Just going through all the process of, you know, clearing, you know, whatever has to be cleared. And then this March, we were able to announce it officially that, you know, I was getting hired, and he hired the women's senior coach as well. So it's been about 3.5 years in the making. But obviously excited to have it done. Disappointed that I couldn't come down this summer due to the pandemic, obviously. I don't think any of us saw that coming. But hopefully can get down there very soon.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the whole Barbados situation. You and I had a conversation when I interviewed you as you got the post. And I think you told me in reviewing the tape of Barbados' performance in that tournament that you thought had they taken more threes, they could have won the tournament.
Yep.
I know that you may not want to get too heavy into the actual analytics stuff, but I'm a basketball junkie. So can you explain, where did you see a situation where Barbados could actually win a tournament with, you know, your style of play?
So I actually did the math on it. I mean, I watched the games, obviously, but I just took their box score, right, from the entire tournament and took their percentages, right? This is what Barbados shot from mid-range at the paint and 3 points, right, the three-point land. And I had an intern with the Rockets actually go through and chart some other things. And so I took those box scores, right, figured out all the percentages, and then I basically took our shot spectrum, right? So take our percentage of threes, right? So by percentage of threes, I mean we shoot 100 shots in a game. 50% of threes, obviously we shot 50 threes, right? That's the easiest way to think about it. So I took our shot spectrum based on threes, layups, free throws, right? And morphed it into what Barbados actually shot, right? So if Barbados would have used our shot spectrum, shooting their percentage, right? I know you touched on earlier, typically we don't have the best 3-point shooters, right? So I used their actual percentage and just morphed it into our shot spectrum. We would have made it to the championship game, right? And then obviously, you know, would have hoped to win the championship game. We weren't there, so we don't know what, you know, the actual shots would have been, right? But we would have won the semifinal even easier, right? Then hopefully, advance to the championship game. I think it was a difference of, I want to say that the third place game was 76-73. I don't know why that number's sticking in my head, but I think the final would have been 82-73, something like that, right? So a difference, obviously that's pretty drastic in just one game. Having a difference of, plus anything over 5 points is a huge drastic increase. But yeah, that's kind of how I did it, right? Just doing the math on everything. And just changing the shot spectrum based on how we would play.
That's awesome.
A final question for you then, Devan. Listening to you crunching these numbers, working in the Rockets organization, working with the Vipers, how much of an impact do you think then data and analytics will have on the modern game going forward? Is it something we can get away from, or is it here to stay?
I think it's here to stay. I really do. I mean, obviously, there's going to be trends, right? Usually the teams that are successful are the teams that figure out the trend first. And obviously, the Warriors, you can go back to the Don Nelson Warriors, right, with Baron Davis, Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes, right? They played small ball, essentially.
We believe Warriors, right?
Yes, the We Believe Warriors that knocked off the number 1 Mavs. They played small ball, right? So you got to credit Don Nelson and that team, right, for really, really doing it. And then, obviously you have to go to the Warriors, right? A little different, right? They don't take away the mid-range shot as much as we do, right? They still take that shot. But the gravity of their players being so skilled from the three-point line obviously just morphs the game completely, right? And then you go to the Rockets where it's, take away this year, it's all threes and layups, right, as we talked about. And then now taking a step further of, okay, let's just eliminate a center completely and see what happens, right? Obviously, that's still an experiment that's still going on. Hopefully we play. Hopefully we come back and we can see it all the way through to see what really happens. But hopefully we're on the front edge of that trend that's happening now, right? It's going to be positionless basketball. I think that's what everyone's guessing is the next big thing. And how can you best take advantage of that? So the numbers say it should work, right? Obviously, you never know till you try it, right? Can your wing players, your 6'5" center get enough rebounds? Can you make enough threes to make it worth it? That's to be determined, right? But if everything goes as planned, it should work. But yeah, and analytics is here to stay for the time being, unless another Shaq comes along, right? But then the analytics are still pretty good for him too, right? Because he probably shot 70% of the rim. So that's the beauty of analytics. You can always the numbers always work if you have an elite player. So no, it's good. Analytics are probably here to stay. I think teams are investing more and more in it every year. When I was with the Pacers 6 years ago, they had one guy. Right? In Houston, we've got a whole team of people dedicated to analytics. So each team values it more than others. There's no denying that. Each coach values it more than other coaches. It just depends. There's still old school coaches in the NBA. There's still old school general managers. But for right now, we'll take that as an advantage.
I figure you would.
Devin, well, that's it for me, Justin. You have any more questions?
No. The only thing is, I can only hope that this pandemic eventually, solves itself, and we can have you here. I don't know, fall, Christmas, so we can get started on this situation.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what I'm hoping for, right? Obviously, if the NBA season ends, it's probably going to start. We'll probably start later, right? If we finish in September, we'll probably start later, I would assume. So hopefully somewhere in that couple month range, I can make it down there and we can get started.
Well, I'm figuring actually this situation, who knows, that maybe I'll be change to having a December start and going forward with that. I know that was kind of a thing thrown out there. And from what has been suggested, they think it makes sense so y'all don't clash too much with the NFL going forward. So who knows, right. Maybe from here, this situation forces you all to start in Christmas and go forward from there.
Right. It's definitely possible. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. That's what I keep reading on ESPN as well. So we'll see if it actually happens.
Well, Devan, thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we can have you back on another episode, probably later down in the year, or hopefully have you for a face-to-face right here in Barbados. So wishing you all the
Absolutely.
best for you and your family. Please stay safe out there in Houston. And until we see you again, thank you so much.
Thank you guys. You guys stay safe as well.